Good evening, book lovers, and welcome to another episode of Cath-Lit Live. I am your host, Amy Cattapan. You can find me everywhere on social media under my pen name, AJ Cattapan. I have another return guest for you tonight, somebody that I've interviewed before on Cath-Lit Live, and I also interviewed her for Shalom World TV back when I had a show on Shalom World TV. I'm trying to remember which one of these it was I interviewed her for back in the day, but Marge Steinhage Fenelon is my guest tonight, and she's got a new book about Mary. So these were two other novenas for Mary, and we're going to talk with her about her new one, the only U.S. Approved Marian apparition site, which is not too far from me, up in my neighboring state of Wisconsin. I'm down in Chicago, of course. So I'm really excited to have Marge on tonight. Let me give you a bit more background information about Marge in case you missed any of my earlier interviews with her. Marge Steinhage Fenelon is an award-winning author, retreat leader, internationally known speaker, and Catholic media personality. She has written several books on Marian devotion and Catholic spirituality, including the best-selling Our Lady, Undoer of Knots, Living Novena, Guided Reflections from the Holy Land, and the award-winning My Queen, My Mother, A Marian Pilgrimage Across America. Her newest book, and yes, I have a copy of that as well, is America's Mary, the Story of Our Lady of Good Help. She's an instructor for the Archdiocese of Milwaukee Deacon Wives Program and holds certificates in spiritual mentoring and Mariology. Her podcast, Simply Holy, airs weekly on many popular podcast platforms. And of course, you can visit her website at margefenelon.com. So without further ado, please help me welcome to the show, Marge Fenelon. Marge.
Hey, Amy, how are you?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm raring to go. I'm excited to be able to tell people about my book.
Well, I've already held up copies of the two books we mentioned in your bio, because of course I have my copies of those. And we've got your new book here as well. So
Cool.
this is a topic I know is near and dear to our heart, because you're a Wisconsin girl. I lived in Wisconsin when I was in college in my first year of teaching, and I'm your neighbor to the south here. I visited this apparition site. I'm sure you have too. So
a couple times, maybe.
a couple times. So tell us, what is America's Mary, the Story of Our Lady of Good Help?
America's Mary chronicles for the first time the United States only church-approved Marian apparition. So plain and simple, that's it. It's not fiction. It is absolutely nonfiction based on years of research, archives, interviews, expert analysis, online, everywhere, everything I could possibly dig into to put that book together. So that's what America's Mary is.
And I noticed you've got some beautiful photos in here too.
Yes, some of them, I was thrilled because a 16-page spread in the middle of the book is phenomenal. And many of them are courtesy of the shrine itself, the National Shrine of Our Lady of Good Help. I'm so great. I got to say that I'm so grateful to those folks there. They were a huge help to me. But then some of those photos are mine. I took them on trips up there. So it's a mix of the shrines and my own.
Nice. Okay, so let's dig in a bit more about this book. What led you to write it? I mean, obviously you have a little bit of a history of writing books about Mary. Did these other novena books kind of lead up to this, or?
In terms of my experience that I had under my belt, yes, absolutely. But in truth, it wasn't even on my radar to do a book about that. Our Sunday Visitor came to me because of my previous books and said, hey, would you consider taking this on? And I had to pray about it for a while because I knew it would be ginormous. I knew it would be a huge endeavor. It would mean not my usual devotional style, inspirational style writing, but this would be pulling out my journalism ticket again and really looking at facts and putting together facts. But then when I met, one of the first people I met with was Bishop David Ricken in Green Bay. And I wanted to ask him what what caveats, what do I need to, what would you like me to do with this book? And he said, Marge, just tell it in the narrative style that you are, almost embarrassed to say, but that you're so good at. So I went back to our Sunday visitor. I said, okay, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. So 3 years of terror trying to put this all together, and a real, I know that, Amy, I know why I know that it is an important book. And why do I know that? Because the spiritual warfare was out of this world, literally, during that whole time I was working on this book. So I know that somebody didn't want to see this book become reality.
Could you maybe give us a quick recap? Because I'm thinking that we might have some people watching who are like, well, wait, Mary appeared in the US and maybe they don't even know the basic. So maybe give us a quick little recap. I don't want to spoil everything that's in here.
Yeah, but it's important because that is the final reason, maybe let's just say the primary reason that I knew I had to do that book, and despite all of the difficulties along the way, because so few people know about this. Yeah, the Blessed Mother appeared right here in our country in 1859 to a young Belgian immigrant woman named Adele Brise. She was 28 at the time of the apparition, and gave her a very special mission and message. But still, people that what is really Mary? Yeah, really, Mary came and touched the earth here in our country, and that's wild, and way too many people don't know about it still.
Yeah, I remember I've been there once, and I knew next to nothing about it. My family was on vacation in Door County, and one of my brothers said, hey, while we're up here, they just approved this Marian apparition site. And I was like, what? Should all stop on our way back down to Chicago. And so that's how I was like, I was walking around the middle of the woods in Wisconsin, like Mary was here. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, it is. It's very wild. And even now, when you visit the shrine, which has been developed to a degree, it's still in the middle of nowhere, in the sense that it's right in the middle of farmland. So and you look around, you can see the woods all around you, and it gives you just a little bit of a taste of what Wisconsin, the North Woods of Wisconsin, looked like in 1859 when our Blessed Mother appeared to Adele.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going back sometime. I'm with the Order of Malta. I'm a Dame of Malta, and they do a pilgrimage there now every year. In addition to the pilgrimage to Lourdes, France, they now do the one to Our Lady of Good Help. Unfortunately, it's always around the time of my dad's birthday, so the timing has not worked out quite for me yet. But I'm looking forward to going back and making that pilgrimage again, and seeing what has happened since the approval, because we were there, I think, just right afterwards. So I'm interested in seeing, like you said, they've kind of built it up a bit now, huh?
They have, and it, I have to say tastefully, because the idea of development there was not welcome by the locals, and I don't blame them. They didn't want, they're thinking about Lourdes and Fatima. They didn't want the place to become commercialized and overrun with constant strangers. But it's I don't even understand it. I think it's a spiritual phenomenon that even with they have a new hall, they have a nice parking lot, which they didn't have before, probably not when you were there. They've got other facilities. They've done beautiful development of the land, outdoor stations of the cross, and some other beautiful walkways. And I think there's also the Rosary walkway. All of this, but yet it still speaks of peace. It's just so calm and peaceful there. So the development was needed, obviously, because they had so many pilgrimages, so many people coming. They didn't know where to go with them, and they didn't want people being, leaving or having to turn people away. So they said, okay, let's build some facilities here that will accommodate.
So we said that, Mary appeared to this young woman, Adele. What was her message to Adele? And does that relate to us today? All
right. The message was, there was, I I guess, typical, if anything about a Marian apparition could be typical, but it was, prayer, penance, offer sacrifice for the conversion of sinners. But her primary message and mission to Adele was to teach the children in this wild country what they need to know for salvation. And when you think about it, it was wild country then for two reasons. As we said, it was the north woods of Wisconsin. The woods were so deep that you couldn't even see the sun. There was no sunlight coming through the branches. But so very wild. It was completely undeveloped, I should say, not even under. So you had this wild country physically, but then the Belgian immigrants were in great danger of losing their faith because there were so few priests and there were a lot of strange customs and spiritualities, that's a loose term, that came along with them from the old country. So there wasn't anyone to teach and carry on the faith. So that was, for that time, very important. But Amy, look at our world right now. Look at our country now. Isn't this still a wild country? Aren't our kids still, the next generation, aren't they still in danger of, I was going to say losing their faith, but not even understanding it in the first place? So it perfectly applies. And Adele was very little educated. She didn't even complete grammar school. So she's in shock and she says, well, how am I supposed to do this? I'm uneducated. Look at me. And Mary says, do not be afraid. Go and I will help you. And that's exactly what she's saying to us today. Do not be afraid. Go and I will help you, because we've got to spread the faith.
I just realized there's a connection there with Bernadette of Lourdes too. She also was not well educated. That's why it was such a big deal that she said Immaculate Conception, because that was in proper French and she spoke a dialect of French and couldn't even, she tried to learn proper French and they delayed her first communion because she couldn't learn her catechism because she wasn't educated enough to speak the proper French, not her dialect. Exactly. Interesting. Mary seems to pick the less educated girls to appear to, right?
Yeah, like, well, humbler and simpler. Yeah, exactly. To show us that you don't need to be a genius in order to be able to teach the faith. So
this all happened 1859, right? The apparition. Right. And then it was approved in 2010. Why such a long process? Can you talk a bit about what that's like?
Oh, I could talk a lot of it, but we don't
we could read the book and probably hear the whole process, right?
That's right. But very to try to really capsulize that, all of that. Why did it take so long? Because for more than 100 years, that apparition site was seen as the Belgians. Here, let me just explain very briefly the Belgian culture. These are amazing, fun-loving, devout people. And I met many fourth generation Belgians when I was researching. They were not quite so keen on strangers coming into their community. They would welcome them. They wouldn't be inhospitable, but to have others come in and become part of their community was not, it made them uneasy. And so they weren't in any hurry to tell others about this apparition that they knew. So generation after generation, it was seen as, well, yeah, that's our chapel, that's our shrine, that's our apparition. And it was only when there became a need for investigation, because word is getting around the Diocese of Green Bay, and Bishop Ricken felt that it was necessary that actually his predecessor began this investigation to determine whether this was worthy of belief or not. So that proclamation of worthy of belief did not come until 2010. And as I mentioned earlier, there's still, the folks there were still a little leery about new development, because they came from Belgium. They were starving. They wanted a new home. They wanted a new life. And they found it there in the North Woods of Wisconsin. So who would want that ruined? And that was, you know, the fear, the concern that people coming into there. So it's like, nope, yeah, this is our chapel. And you talk to some of these folks who their great grandparents were there during Adele's time. And these folks will still feel like, yeah, this is ours. This is our treasure.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to digging more into it. I've actually read a fictionalized young adult version, which I think is on one of my shelves back over there. So now it'll be interesting to see how all your history lines up with the fiction.
Yeah. It was, and yeah, I know the book that you're talking about, and the author did petition me a few times. Do you think, or what did you find? And so I did my best to help her, but it's everything in America's Mary is completely solid, verified. If there's any speculation that I use, I'm very specific, saying these folks speculate. We don't know absolutely, but this is what the thought is, and this is why. There was a bunch of science involved in that I never expected, in terms of the Great Fire and some other things. So, so I had to run around and, okay, what do you say and what are you that? And then put that in the book, that this is what so-and-so, or this is what this group thinks. So,
so if people want to find out more about you and about all of your books, you've got them lined up behind you there on the shelf. So if they want to go find out more, where can they learn more about you and your books? Check
out my website, margefenelon.com. It's all there. In my blog, my books, there's lots of background there on who I am and the kind of work that I do. And it also lets you know there how you can connect with me on social media. So it's a whole host of them, but you know, all of the main ones: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody, but it's all there. So if you want to follow me, go to my website, margefenelon.com.
So thank you so much for coming on tonight, Marge. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
Oh, same here. I'm so excited. Thanks so much, Amy, for having me on.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to wave goodbye to Marge for now. We'll probably have her back on when the next book comes out.
Hopefully not too long.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Marge. All righty. So good to talk with Marge again. This is a fascinating story. If you don't know the story of Our Lady of Good Help, I definitely recommend checking it out. And if you live at all in the Midwest, if you're heading over to Green Bay area or Door County, Wisconsin, check out the site. I'm hoping to get there again before too long. And if you've read any of Marge's books, please show her some love. Leave it in the comments. Let us know which of her books you've loved and enjoyed. Or if you've already gotten your copy of this one, let us know as well. And until next time, I'm just going to wish you all happy reading.